Our next presenter gives me a pleasure and honor to introduce him. His name is Maxwell. He's originally from Winston-Salem via Jamaica. Max is a humble man, but yet fearless. He's a not formally educated, but brilliant. He's a graduate of West Forsyth. That's his claim. He tells a story about being dyslexic. He tells a story about the struggle. He tells a story about being self-made. He tells a story about arriving. You can see Max all over the country if you get a chance. You can see him on YouTube, you can see him on Twitter, you can see him on HDT TV, you can see him in Charlotte, Atlanta, Texas, California. He flies his own plane. He runs his own company. And I won't belabor you with what he does and how he does it and who he does it with. I think I'll just bring him to the stage and let him tell the story. So please join me in giving Maxwell a warm welcome.
Check, is my mic working? Good. How's everybody doing today? Doing well. So I wanted to bring something to the stage, and we'll talk about it a little later, but we'll talk about that later. So, like Bobby said, my name is Maxwell, and I'll tell you a little bit about my story. I'm a first-generation American, right? So both of my parents are immigrants from the island of Jamaica. 2.5 million people, very, very small island. So I've always seen my parents work very hard, and it definitely reflected upon me and myself. So moving on, growing up, I wasn't the smartest student, and I didn't know why. I didn't take tests well. It's hard for me to pay attention in class, and I just thought something was wrong with me myself. I got to high school and it got just harder and harder. And in high school, I learned that I was dyslexic. So words and numbers appear backwards. I have to take my time to really, really read something, even to this day. Numbers backwards, phone numbers backwards. So that I understood, but I didn't tell anybody because I was ashamed of it. And I didn't test well. So if you don't test well, you don't do well, because that's how we base our education off of, is testing. So I was a student athlete at West Forsyth, class of 2002, and I played football my entire life pretty much. South Fork Elementary School, Haynes Middle School, West Forsyth. I played football all my life. And when I got to high school, they implemented a rule that you have to have a 2.0 GPA to play any sports. Well, that only allowed me to ever play no more than a half of a football season until report cards came out, and I was kicked off the team because I had a 1.9 GPA pretty much my entire high school career. So it wasn't like I didn't try, or it just was hard for me. And with not speaking about my disorder to anybody, I didn't know how to correct it or if it was correctable. For a long time, I didn't know what it even was. So needless to say, when it was time to take the SATs, I didn't show up. I don't know how I passed high school, actually. I think it was because they liked me. So they pushed me along. And needless to say, I didn't go to college. Couldn't go to college. So 17-year-old, can't go to college. I'm the middle child of 5. What do you think I got to do? I got to go to the military, right? So I passed the test to get into the military, which I don't know how I did that either. And I became a cop in the military. And funny story is, I said, I embraced going to the military. I said, I'm going to go travel the world on the U.S. government's dime. I said, I want to go, if you know anything about the military, you fill out a dream sheet and you put where you want to go. And I said, I want to go to Korea. Send me to Korea. And you're in a boot camp and you're sitting there and everybody's in the day room, they call it, and you're getting your orders. The drill sergeant's handing out his orders. And I get my order and they say, you're going to Cheyenne. I'm like, yes, that's what I've been waiting for. I'm going to China. I'm going somewhere in Cheyenne, China. And he says, why are you happy? So I said, I've always wanted to go overseas, sir. He said, well, you're going to Cheyenne, Wyoming. I was like, where's that? He said, the middle of the country, middle of nowhere. So I went to Cheyenne, Wyoming. I was a cop for a while, cross-trained into a new job. I found out very quickly that the military and the structure wasn't for me. Terrible leadership, all that stuff. We'll save that story for another day. So 4 years later, and I went in at 17. I was in the military at 17. I was a trained killer before my 18th birthday. I knew how to use the M16 like I grew up with one. And those were my proud accomplishments. But anyways, I got out of the military and I didn't want to re-enlist. I turned down a $100,000 signing bonus. Made no sense. If somebody's offering me $100,000 for something, it didn't add up. So I discharged from the military and I came back home to Winston-Salem. And when I left, same people that were here were doing the same thing when I got back. Didn't skip a beat. So you said, I know what, I need to do something different. I went and got my real estate license. Started practicing real estate. And then the real estate market crashed. So at that point, it was the last time you can go to school to be a real estate agent and go to broker school back to back and open up a brokerage firm. So year one, I had my own brokerage firm. I did property management and investment. And then the market crashed and I lost everything. I said, you know what? I'm going to pack up and I'm going to go to California. At this point, I think I was driving a Jeep. They were looking for it for repo. I said, they ain't going to find me in California. So I drove all the way to Los Angeles. And I lived in Los Angeles for a while where, you take regular jobs and do whatever it is you want to do. So that was my story growing up. I just never had enough. I felt like I missed out. So I was in the marketing world, making a decent salary, at least what I thought was a decent salary. And I quit that job because I'm too much of an entrepreneur to try to create an app, right? Something you put on your phone. And we raised money, not enough. It failed within the year. And here I am back home in North Carolina broke. 30 years old. Guess whose house I went to? My mother's, right? Good food, by the way. I'm back home, 30 years old, living upstairs in the room, beating my head against the wall as, what's next? What do I do next? Here's a funny story. At 30 years old, in my mom's house was the first time I ever read a complete book. So at 30 years old was the first time I read a book. I thought that was normal. And the book I read was Rich Dad, Poor Dad. When I got done with that book, it took me a long time, but when I got done with that book, I realized I've been looking at life the wrong way the entire time. So what did I do? I had a mindset change. So remember, I'm 33 now. So 3 years ago, I was dead broke, no job, no money, overdraft accounts, driving a 2004 Volkswagen Jetta with a bad starter. I had to hit it every time. You know what it is. Don't act like I'm the only one that's got a bad starter in a car, right? You got to hit it with a hammer to make sure it starts. That was me. All the way 2 years ago, my mindset changed and I started looking at life in abundance. I know the elementary saying where they say, look at life as glass half full. Everybody knows that saying, right? but do you truly understand it? Literally, are you going to complain about what you don't have or cherish what you already have? And how much are you going to complain about what you don't have, and what are you going to do about it? Right? Because we can blame everything. We can blame slavery. We can blame everything. You name it. We can blame, and that's what we're used to doing. But what are we going to do for ourselves? So my mindset changed. Abundance life. I started doing that. And I met with a good friend and his dad was in real estate. So here I am visiting real estate again. And his dad mentioned about investment property, and he was pretty wealthy. I didn't know how wealthy he was to that day. He said a word to me. He said, wholesaling real estate, investment property. You don't have any money to do it. I went home. I locked myself in my mom's room upstairs in her house, and I learned everything I thought I needed to learn about real estate again. And that was 2 years ago. Now, since then I've built a $2.5 million company, and we're just getting started. And like I said, the only thing around me that changed, nothing changed around me. People were still doing the same things. The government was still the government. A dollar was still a dollar. The only thing changed was in between my two ears. My mindset. The glass is half full. And what am I going to do to fill it the rest of the way? Okay? So the mindset was a big thing. And it changed for me. Do you guys know what that is on the table right there? What is it? It's exactly $36,113. You guys know what that represents? That's the average salary for a woman in North Carolina on that table right there. Your entire year is right there. That's what North Carolina says you're worth. Now, if you're okay with that, it's fine. Sure, go work 40 hours a day. But I believe that everybody in here is worth more than that. But what are you willing to do to fill the rest of that glass? I don't think you understand how lucky we are to even be here, right? I mean, it's think about it. From sex to you're sitting in this chair right here, the odds, you've beat a lot of odds to be here today. So do you see how that mindset changed from I don't have anything to wait, I beat out millions of little tiny swimming things to get here today. And that's how you have to think. So half of the battle is already done. You're here. What are you going to do with it? It's crazy, right? So the mindset changed. That's how you think. When I met Mr. Kimbrell about a year ago, we were sitting down and I showed him something. I said, I don't know if you guys can see this, but it's a countdown, right? It says 44 years, 70 days, 7 hours, 16 minutes, 12, 11, 10, 9. It doesn't stop. You know what this is? I look at this every single day. This is the day I'm supposed to die. The average American lives to their 78 years old. And if you realize that the time is ticking and you cannot stop it, no matter how much money you have, it will keep on ticking. Every morning I wake up, I am happy to see this thing counting down. Right? So I said, Bobby, how old are you? He told me his age. I punched his number in here, said, here you go. That's the day you die. So when you look at life that you've already made it. You've won the lotto. You're here. What are you going to do to fulfill or fill the rest of that glass? Seriously, what are you going to do? And a lot of people complain that say, hey, you know what? I work a full-time job. I don't have time to start my own business. I work a full-time job, I'm a single mom. I've heard that many times. My mom was single with 5 kids. She's been a CNA for 36 years. She makes $17.50 an hour this day. She works nights ever since I've known her. I remember when I was in middle school or elementary school, my mom used to go to work at night, come home. My older sister would make sure me and my brothers and sisters were ready for school, and my mom would go sand drywall in Maxwell after she worked an 8-hour shift overnight. You want to know why? Because the alternative was to go back to Jamaica. Those 3 ladies sitting right there will tell you that, yes, you might see Jamaica, the pretty islands, Ocho Rios, Montego Bay, all those places. I still go home and cousins still have to use an outhouse. So I double made it. First, I was born, then I got an opportunity to be an American. What are you complaining for? The glass is half full. Right? So even if you're not an entrepreneur now, and everybody in here should probably have an entrepreneur mindset is the reason why you're here. Are you telling me that 1/3 of your life is worth this? $36,113. Right? So there's some statistics. I believe there's 120 hours in work week. Right? 120 hours in a work week. How many hours do most people work? 40, right? So 1/3 of your entire work week is spent working. And a lot of people say, I don't have time to start a business. I don't have time to chase my dreams. What are you doing with the other 80 hours during those 5 days? Right? Oh, I forgot, you got to sleep. Right? Okay, 40 hours of sleep. You're sleeping 8 hours a day. All right. You still got 40. I'm a single mom. You know what? You're right. You're right. Let's dedicate 20 hours a week just to being a single mom, being a great parent, great husband, great wife. You got 20 hours left. That's 20 hours in a 5-day period. And guess what? Still got the weekends. So 68 hours a week you have to pour into yourself. So when I asked Reginald, I said, what am I going to speak about here? He said, the right investment. I said, well, what are it? Stocks and bonds and real estate? The most important investment you can ever make is in yourself. Because if you are willing to give a man, a company, a woman 1/3 of your entire life and never do anything else for yourself, what are you saying about you? $36,113. Is that what you're worth? North Carolina says you are. It's up to us. It's up to you to be better. You've already won. Let's keep winning. All right, guys. I'm not gonna keep you here any longer, but that's it. Any questions? That's good. Get out there and do it. You have a question? Yes.
I noticed that you read Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and you changed your way of thinking, and then you went back and restudied real estate again.
Mm-hmm.
What was your first investment, or how did you get started physically? with the real estate business?
Yeah, so that's an important question, right? I had no money, zero credit. I was negative $563 on my Bank of America account, and I was overdrafting every time I put gas in my car. So, right? So if I bought a Snickers bar, it was $1 and $32. $33, because you know that bank charge they put in there, right? So there's this thing called wholesaling real estate, where essentially you don't need money, cash, or credit in order to create a cash flow so you can buy property. So that was the first thing I did in real estate. What the book really did was to teach me about money. I looked at money in a different way. This, to me, when I see this, means nothing. It's a tool. It's a tool, but people worship this, right? They worship it so much, I can get a third of your life for that right there, right? I have some of my employees over here. I never want them to work for me for a long time. Why? Because they're supposed to come, learn, and leave. Bring the next ones in. Because if you come and work for me and you're there for 5, 10, 20 years, I'm a bad employer. I've taught you nothing but how to be an employee. It's a funny story. Lewis found me on YouTube, came to my office one morning out of the blue, and I purposely don't put my office anywhere, so I don't know how he found it. Okay? Came to my office, said, hey, I'm a 19-year-old kid. I just dropped out of high school and I need a job. I want to become financially independent. And at the time, I was actually hiring. There's 160 resumes in, and I couldn't find one person to hire. And here comes this 19-year-old kid knocking on my office door. He's got a job. He's doing well. And I don't think he'll be with me for more than 2 years. And he shouldn't. He's learning what he needs to learn to be successful in life. We've been telling our kids the same story for so long. Go to school, get an education, and go get a job. It didn't work for your grandparents. It's not going to work for your parents. It ain't going to work for you. It ain't going to work for them. Now, I'm not saying college is not important. But what I'm saying is go to college, get an education, and create something. So I hope I answered your question. I can go off on a rant sometimes because I'm really passionate about real estate, independent financial independence. I think it's the most important thing a person can ever have. Now, financial independence to a person might be $100,000 a year. It might be $50,000 a year, right? It's not defined. There's no number to financial independence, but it's very important. Any other questions? Well, I appreciate you guys coming here. Reginald, I appreciate you having me. Bobby, I appreciate the introduction. And actually, Bobby introduced us together. And that's all I have. But I really want you guys to go out there and fill the rest of your glass. I really do.